and I had not had a single bite on a dock, not one. And I said, man, they got to be on dock. They're always on docks on this lake. I couldn't fit, didn't make any sense. So I told Ish, I said, you think if we downsized our baits, we might get a few bites? He's like, I don't know. And he's Captain Big Baits, you know, he loves big baits. So I went out and tried and put that missile crawl on, and it was about the second dock I came to. I had one bite it. It was a two and a half pounder. Like, oh, that's cool. And then it was like 2 docks later, I had another bite. 3 or 4 docks later, I had another bite. I was like, I think there's something to this. I ended up having probably 15 bites that day on docks and shallow cover. And the day before, I hadn't had any bites on a jig or a D-bomb. And I told Ish about it. Ish said, man, long story short, his truck had broke down the week before, so he didn't have any of his backup baits. And so I gave him a handful of missile crawls for the first day of the tournament. Gave him a handful of missile crawls. He used every single one of them, and he ended up with like 11 pounds and something. I had 12 or 13 pounds that first day, and he used up all of his. He's like, dude, this is the most crazy thing I've ever seen. He said, I put that thing on and caught a limit in the first hour and used up all the baits. And then so he said, I was hunting you down all day, and I never saw you on the water. But that's kind of what gave me that idea for the Falcon tournament. And then so other places to use the power finesse is like I gave the Lake Falcon example earlier, and I think the reason that Lake Falcon it made such a difference there is because that lake has just been absolutely pounded in the last 5 or 6 years. And then there'll be days, in the wintertime, there'll be 200 boats at every ramp. It just gets absolutely slaughtered. The water had been low. I feel like every fish in that lake had either seen a lure or been caught on a lure multiple times. And so that big profile, a lot of people flip in the big creature baits, big jigs, because they think, like everybody else would, big baits, you want to catch big fish down there. And those fish had seen that profile and that fall so many times. They'd seen that, as I was talking about earlier, they'd seen that size bait over and over and over again. Now all of a sudden they got something with a faster fall, different shape, coming down in front of them. They keyed in on it, fished it a little bit slower, and caught a lot more fish. One of the other times that the power finesse flipping comes into play is in the post spawn. In my experience, when you're fishing the post spawn, if you're fishing a jig, you're not going to get a whole lot of bites. You might still be able to catch a few fish, but in that post spawn period, that 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, I was explaining it to somebody the other day. During the pre-spawn and spawn, those fish are related to the bottom. They're very territorial. They're in the mood to spawn, and then they're getting ready to spawn. And so they're relating to the bottom, and they're getting very territorial. Anything that's rooting around on that bottom and that, knocking around that root system, no problem, take that. You didn't look busy there, Bill. Anybody, knocking around in that root, hitting that bottom, those fish get defensive. Those fish are related to the bottom, and that's where they're going to focus, to where your bites are going to be. But in that post-spawn period, we all know bass spawn, they have these balls of fry. The balls of fry don't sit on the bottom. The balls of fry go up. These are tiny sunfish. They are sunfish. They're coming up to get the sun, and so they're higher in the water column. And a lot of the male bass are higher in the water column. The ones that are not still guarding the beds, the females, a lot of them, you'll see them in that post-spawn period, high in the water column. So I feel like a lot slower fall can be really good in that post-spawn period. And smaller baits with a slow fall is even better. They don't seem to want that big profile. They seem to want a little smaller, skinnier profile, but something with that slower fall.
Bass U, folks. Information is pouring over. If you want to learn more about every lake, how to fish shallow, deep, in between, skipping docks and rocks and cranking, slow wiggling, chatter, smattering, you get it at Bass U. Get on Bass U TV, check it out, sign up, be a member, be part of it, folks. Keep learning.